Shuttlepod Down. Written by Sparky Brony. Narrated by the great and powerful Boo. Chapter 2. In the sickbay of the USS Voyager, twilight appears to controlled pandemonium. One human is on one of the beds, his uniform shredded, his body burned. Another human is working on him, trying to get him to calm down as he writhes in pain. The standing human reaches over and grabs a device, and with a soft hissing sound, the man on the bed relaxes into unconsciousness. Twilight trots up to the standing human. "Excuse me, sir," she says. "Get me the dermal regenerator," he snaps. She flinches back. After a moment, he huffs. "A dermal regenerator. It's in that cabinet," he points without looking. Twilight moves over to the cabinet and unfurls her wings to get added height. Her horn lights and the cabinet opens. The device flies over and slaps into the outstretched hand of the other human. He growls, "Thanks. At least someone knows how to be efficient." Twilight folds her wings and trots up to him. It looks like the immediate danger has passed. "What happened?" she asks softly. "The ship has been boarded. Lieutenant Malloy here was able to initiate an emergency beam out, though more casualties will be incoming. I need to get him taken care of quickly before more arrive." "More?" Twilight feels the butterflies in her stomach. "I need to get to Naomi." "I'm a doctor, not a directory. Ask the computer where she is." Twilight looks at the exit. "I did, but as a hologram, I can't just walk to her. I'm looking for someone to help me." He stops what he is doing for a moment. Then he looks at her. "You are a hologram too?" He walks over to her. "You aren't any Matrix I recognize. What are you doing in my sickbay?" Her eyes widen. "So you are stuck where there are holo emitters as well?" He shakes his head. "No, I have a mobile emitter. I am not bound to the sickbay. I can go anywhere on the ship." He points to the device sitting on his desk. "I can even leave the ship if I so choose, but none of that matters. Who are you and what are you doing here?" She again unfurls her wings and leaps over the desk. Her magic grabs the small device and she inspects it quickly. The doctor steps forward. "Hey, you aren't allowed to have that. Put it down," he growls. She puts the emitter against her skin behind her ear and it sticks. She can feel her essence drain into the device, and she smiles brightly. "I'll bring it back," she shouts as she gallops for the door. The door opens and she slides through as she makes the turn into the corridor. She skids to a stop, her rump landing on the deck. "Computer!" The computer responds with a chirp. "Is Naomi still in the Turbolift 3? Again, a few chirps from the computer. "Negative. Naomi Wildman is in her quarters on deck 6. "How do I get there?" The computer takes a moment to respond. "Follow the lit path to the turbolift, then continue following the path until you reach your destination." Along the wall, a bar lights up, with brighter lights running down, indicating the direction. Twilight dashes off and soon finds herself at the turbolift. She looks into the small room, and finally shrugs her wings as she steps into it. The doors close and it moves off, quickly stopping one deck down. The door opens and she pokes her head out, noting the lighted path following to her right. Instead of a mad dash, she walks more cautiously down the corridor. She turns a corner and stops, her wings spreading in surprise. There are 4 creatures in the corridor. The light path ends at the door right where the creatures are. She takes a step forward. "Whatever it is, get it!" comes a voice from one of the creatures. They raise what looks like weapons and Twilight's eyes go wide. Her horn lights as they fire. She gets her shield to form, and as the beams from the weapons slam into it, the concussive blast of the beams blows her back into the bulkhead. She shakes her head and watches the soldiers work together to advance towards her. 2 would move forward, then provide cover for the other 2 as they advance. "You have magic," she growls. "Well, I have magic too!" She charges her horn and fires a concussive beam at them. The beam hits one of the soldiers, and it doesn't even push him back. She frowns and fires again, to the same effect. Then she has to hastily throw up a shield to defend herself from another blast from the soldiers. "Well, that isn't working." She turns and gallops down the corridor. She has to get to Naomi. 2 more humans appear with the same uniform as Tom, but the shoulders of these uniforms is mustard yellow. They are carrying similar-looking devices as the invaders. She flashes past them and skids around the corner, heading down another side corridor. Behind her, she hears shouts and the sound of the invaders' weapons, as well as a different sound of weapons fire. She stops and looks behind her. One of the soldiers rolls and fires his weapon at her. She leaps to the side and turns to run down the corridor. She makes another turn and sees that she's in the same corridor as Naomi's room. She barrels over to it, and it slides to a stop as it doesn't open for her. She bangs on the door, not getting a response. Those soldiers are almost into the corridor, and they would know where she went. She closes her eyes and lights her horn. Time for an old-fashioned teleport. It feels different as it happens, but she opens her eyes and looks around. "Twilight?" comes Naomi's voice. "What are you doing here?" Twilight runs over and tackles Naomi, nuzzling her fiercely. "The ship has been boarded. We need to get out of here." "But you're a holodeck program. You can't leave the holodeck," Naomi says, her face showing her confusion. "How are you here?" "The doctor's mobile emitter. At least that's what he called it. I ran into the invaders trying to get to you, and I used magic on them, but I couldn't do anything to stop them." Naomi frowns. "The holodeck has safety programs to make it impossible for you to hurt anyone." Twilight smiles. "Naomi, I would never hurt you, but I need to stop them. Can those safety programs be taken off?" Naomi nods, still a little unsure. Twilight smiles. She again lights her horn and speaks with Tom's voice. "Computer, disable safety protocols on program Twilight Sparkle." Naomi gasps as the computer's response. "Acknowledged." Twilight grins and fires a beam in a vase, which explodes. She turns to Naomi. "Thank you." She moves over and hugs Naomi. "Now, let's get you to safety." "Where's that?" Twilight huffs. "I have no idea, but we need to get away from here." Naomi stops for a moment. "Mommy said that there's a designated safe area. It's the mess hall." Twilight smiles. "Sounds good to me. Where is it?" "Deck 2? Twilight growls. 4 decks up." She shakes her head. "Well, come with me. I'll protect you." She moves over to the door. She closes her eyes and lights her horn. Naomi's eyes widen as the entire wall becomes transparent to them. She comes over and places a hand on the alicorn's withers. "Can they see us?" She points at the 2 Herosian that are walking down the corridor. Twilight shakes her head. "No, it's a clairvoyant spell. Something in the walls themselves are responding to the spell and showing us the other side of the walls." Naomi blinks and tilts her head for a moment. "Like the ship's sensors?" "The internal sensors!" Twilight watches the soldiers turn the corner. "Okay, let's go. Quickly now." The door opens and they dash through them into the corridor. Twilight turns away and starts to gallop. "Quickly, Naomi!" she whispers fiercely. After a few moments, she notices that Naomi is not able to run as fast as she can. She lights her horn again and gently picks up Naomi, placing the girl on her back. Naomi wraps her arms around Twilight as she resumes her gallop. She slides to a stop at the intersection of one corridor with another. She glances down the corridor, then rushes down as she sees it's empty. Another sliding turn, and she is at the turbolift alcove. A wing is extended to press the pad to call the car. Twilight turns broadside to the turbolift door so she can easily see back in the corridor, her ears flicking consistently to listen for heavy footfalls of the soldiers. The lift's doors open and a loud gasp from Naomi gets her attention. She jerks to look inside of the turbolift. 2 Herosian soldiers are standing there. Without wasting any time, Twilight's horn lights, and she simply grabs the 2 soldiers with her magic, flinging them through the air as far as she can manage. She leaps into the turbolift, firing consecutive blasts at the soldiers as they gain their feet and rush towards the closing door of the turbolift. As the door shuts, Twilight heaves a massive breath and calls out, "Deck 2! Mess hall!" The lift obedient responds, first jerking to the side, then it rises a single deck. The door opens as the lift stops. Twilight's horn is charged and ready, though there are no surprises this time. Twilight walks cautiously down the hallway, Naomi shifting her weight to tell Twilight the direction to go. Finally, they see an obviously barricaded door. Tables and benches are on their sides as a physical barrier. "There's one! Fire!" comes a voice from the barricade. Twilight barely gets a shield up before a blast reaches out to them. She shouts, "Stop firing! I'm friendly! I've got Naomi with me!" "Naomi?" comes Neelix's voice. His head pops up. "Who are you?" Twilight growls, "We can wait on introductions. I'm coming in." She gallops towards the barricade, unfurling her wings in the tight space. She leaps into the air and executes a tight turn through the door. She skids to a stop, her horn lighting and a shield forming around the barricade. "I think that should hold for a while," she sighs. Neelix kneels down next to Naomi as she clambers off Twilight's back. "Naomi, how did you get a character from your program here?" Naomi shakes her head. "She appeared in my room. I have no idea." Neelix whirls on Twilight. "You're a holo simulation. How can you be out here?" Twilight huffs. "Seriously? Do I have to explain to every pony?" She moves to remain to the side. "I borrowed the doctor's mobile emitter. I'm here to protect Naomi." "Here they come!" comes a couple of voices from the barricade, along with the whine of weapons fire. Neelix looked down at Twilight and then at the door. "This isn't a safe space for Naomi. You need to take her someplace safe." "But I don't know enough about this ship. The computer's been telling me where to go, but..." Twilight looks at Naomi. Crewman Kenneth Dalby walks over and kneels. "I have an idea. Can I see the emitter for a moment?" Tentatively, Twilight looks at Naomi and Neelix. "He's pretty smart, and he's part of the engineering staff," Neelix says, and nods to Twilight. Kenneth taps the panel on the mobile emitter. "Computer, download ship schematics and personnel files to the mobile emitter. Integrate into memory files of the Twilight Sparkle program." The computer chirps a few times. "Transfer complete." Twilight gasps as the data fills her mind. She turns and looks at Neelix. This area is going to get overwhelmed. "Naomi!" she shouts and dashes over to the young lady. "We need to get to the Jeffries tubes." Neelix watches dumbfoundedly as Twilight rushes towards a bulkhead, and her magic yanks open the hatch. She crawls in and waits for Naomi before she closes the hatch behind her. She finds the access tubes are tall enough for her to walk with her head down, and Naomi puts her hand on Twilight's back as she bends down to walk. Twilight walks for a bit, getting away from the mess hall. "This is bad, so very bad," she moans. "What are we going to do?" Naomi tightens her grip on Twilight. "I don't know. It's happening so fast. We need to slow them down or knock them out." "Knock them out! You're a genius, Naomi!" She sits down and gestures for Naomi to sit with her. "We are safe for now. Let's see if we can get the ship to help us." She glances at the computer terminal at the junction. She reaches a wing out to tap the button. "Twilight Sparkle to sickbay." "Sickbay?" comes the terse response. "Doctor, we need to stop the corrosion. I need to put anesthetizing gas into the ventilation system. It should knock out the soldiers." The doctor tisks. "Sorry, but anesthetizing will not affect the corrosion. Their armor will prevent any chemical agent from fully affecting all of them. And it will have the added effect of knocking out all the crew, so it will make the soldiers' job a lot easier." Twilight growls. "There has to be a way to stop them." A feminine voice comes over the comm panel. "We can try an old Maquis trick. When the Cardassians would board a ship, we would overload the plasma conduits with a phased plasma pulse. In essence, every plasma conduit all over the ship would become a stun phaser." The doctor comes back over the channel. "B'Elanna, you are too severely injured right now." Twilight and Naomi hear a sound of a struggle. Then the hiss of a hypospray becomes audible over the connection. "I had to sedate her, or she would have hurt herself more. Did you catch all of what she said?" She giggles. "Of course, Doctor. Twilight out." Twilight looks around and finds a hatch leading down. "Well, Naomi, let's get going." Naomi moves over and starts to climb down the ladder. "Where are we going?" "Main engineering on deck 11. Let's go." Naomi rolls her eyes. "I know where main engineering is." "I know you do. Let's hurry." This is the end of Chapter 2, Part 1 of Shuttlepod Down by Sparky Brony. Read to you by the great and powerful Boo.